Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for joining us. Well, we're going to talk about tailoring financial services to people with intellectual and physical disabilities with the folks from the CrossState Credit Union Association. But first, we have the chair of the Pennsylvania Senate Appropriations Committee. His name is Scott Martin, and he represents a district in, where else? Lancaster County. Back after these words.
Welcome to the fast-paced and unrehearsed weekly discussion featuring the leaders who help shape your world. Join us as we address the issues that impact you each and every day. This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
All right, sitting across from me is Scott Martin. And by the way, last week, we had the chair of the House Appropriations Committee, a Democrat by the name of Jordan Harris, chair of the House Appropriations Committee, and now we have the Republican chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. We hear all sides on this show. All right, Scott Martin, I'll tell you, the big discussion in Harrisburg has been all about the state budget. Now, as you and I chat, the Senate is in caucus trying to resolve some of these important problems. So what's your takeaway so far on the budget?
Well, first, it's great to be back with you, Terry, and I know I joke about this, but anytime you can get a Lancaster Catholic grads together, Millersville University alum, and two former Lancaster County commissioners, it's a good day. But it's great to be here, and yes, we are looking to come back, and we've worked out with the governor things to reassure us, as you know, how the budget, the general appropriations budget, ended back in June was something that kind of took us by surprise. And so we wanted, well, not related to that, but really the blue lining where we thought we had a deal and all of a sudden the deal changed. And so over the course of that time since then, one, the House Democrats held on to the GA bill for over a week before sending it over to our signature. I don't know why, but we had to work out with the governor to get assurances of not only what he was going to do once we signed it, but also get clarification from both parties, the things that are needed to put enabling legislation in the fiscal code bills. There's other things he cannot spend money on, even though the GA bill's approved, but there's things that they consider to be wins. So we had to iron through those things.
Well, what does this mean to the average Pennsylvania citizen?
Well, what it will mean is the vast majority of Pennsylvania's budget that goes to fund most of education, county and human service related things, everything else in the budget is going to be the money that goes out the door. But if there's programs, especially new programs, that require formulas to drive the money out, or those things have to be done because it directs the Pennsylvania treasurer on how to pay the bills, how to cut the checks. And so it wasn't as cut and dry as, oh, the governor's just removing Lifeline scholarships. There were things that were negotiated for that also need enabling legislation that we had to be very clear about.
Well, the lateness of the budget has also meant that two areas of that supply services, one is education and the other is county governments, where you know, if this thing drags out, the services provided are really going to be damaged, as we've seen with Governor Wolf's first budget, which took months and months to get adopted.
Well, and I was still a Lancaster County Commissioner at that time, and we almost had to take out loans at the point of fronting money on behalf of the state where we couldn't operate the prison or the 911 center. So, I mean, that's always in the back of our minds, but we had to get through the legalities and get on the same page with the administration as to what needed enabling legislation and what didn't moving forward.
Yeah. Well, let's run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some other aspects of the budget, particularly the state-related universities, Pitt, Penn State, Temple, and Lincoln universities, obviously very important, and some other elements of the budget that I think are relevant to people. We'll do that after these words.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association. the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Well, Senator, one aspect of the state budget that has gotten a lot of news is the funding for the state-related universities, Pitt, Penn State, Temple, and Lincoln University. Some of them are raising their tuitions because of the uncertainty. There was no budget adopted for them. Where does all that stand now, do you think?
Well, Terry, as you know, constitutionally it requires a 2/3 majority
Correct.
to pass the money for the state-relateds. We've all seen numerous votes in the House of Representatives related to that, and each one has failed except one. Lincoln actually passed.
Right.
They agreed to freeze their tuition. You know, in my mind, what I really believe is the state-relateds really need to engage House leadership, specifically the House Republican leadership, to really address the concerns that they have in order to get those 2/3 votes. And when you're talking about areas of transparency, when you're talking about areas of guaranteeing potentially freezing where student tuition is, these are important to people throughout Pennsylvania. But the bottom line is, you know this, the vote count is what matters in order to get this done. And I think until they sit down with them and get that situated and meet some of maybe their concerns, I don't know when that would move.
Well, I'm biased here because of my career at Millersville University, but the fact of the matter is that those state-related universities and their branches, and you take the publicly owned universities, the fact of the matter is they are very, very important to the communities in which they're located, to provide jobs for people, to buy services from a whole variety of things. I think they're significant. In addition to education, which is the prime function, they also have an important economic function.
Without question. And when you combine that, Terry, with the fact that we have some of the highest, on average, higher education costs in the country, and sadly, some of the highest correlation of student debt per capita.
Right.
It's important, just like you're seeing us go with the Pennsylvania state system right now, is to ensure that they're able to still meet that mission of a relevant to what these kids, what kind of jobs are going to get, but they have to be able to afford it. And so you're seeing some of the changes with the state system over the last 4 years or so. We still have a ways to go, but we're getting there, and we're doing a lot to help the PASHE system as well.
All right. I have to ask you about something called FAFSA. Did I get that right?
Yep.
So what's FAFSA? Tell us what that is.
So most of your viewers who ever fill out these forms for their kids to go to college will realize what these forms are. But the problem is that Pennsylvania has one of the lowest rates of FAFSA completion, and it's a form to tell students how much potential financial aid you'll get, not just for four-year college, but potentially community college, a job training program. And we're leaving about $3.75 billion worth of Pell Grants available to our Pennsylvania students on the table. Is
that because it's difficult to implement? The program's difficult to implement?
No, because I think personally it's because we don't require schools to really do this with them. And so this is going to require seniors to complete the FAFSA. There is an opt-out provision, but we want to be able to kids to get past the cloud of, college is just way too unaffordable for me, I'm not even going to think about it, to know that there's potential assistance for them, and then they can make a career path choice after that.
So this is a requirement. What your bill would do would make it a legal requirement to do.
Yep, for public and private schools. And what we saw is that the states that have it as a legal requirement to do have had increases of 26% in the number of kids doing it. And the most important stat, 90% of the kids who fill out FAFSA forms by the following November, after they graduate, have entered into a job training program, four-year college, community college, and that's what we want them to see. It's like, pick a career path, and we're here to help you.
One final question, and I have to go back to the budget. That's all we're talking about. Is this going to reach an agreement with the governor and the House? Is this virtually done or close to being done?
Well, the general appropriation bill will be done once it's signed when we go in.
You're going to sign it, and then what? And the governor, you know what he has said he's going to do. He's going to veto the provision that would provide money for students to go to private private
that
schools.
$100 million. And
$100
see,
million.
that was negotiated against other things that he considers to be wins. Where that will have an impact if he blue lines that will be in the negotiations in the fiscal code for things like whole home repairs, the level up funding he's looking for. You know, those are the points of the budget that need enabling language. So those negotiations will happen. And as you know, I don't know when the House is coming back. They have a special election coming up. Right now, the House is at 101, 101. But I'm hopeful that the Senate's going to finish up its work in these discussions. But we'll see. Does the House come back before the end of September?
All right. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about tailoring services for people with intellectual and physical disabilities. The services have to do with, guess what, money, financial services. Back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by CrossState Credit Union Association. Credit unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, go to ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Well, the CrossState Credit Union Ambassador program is very, very important. These students come up with projects that help people, and particularly when it comes to financial services. And the CrossState Credit Union Ambassador is Sarah Smith. We'll get back to her, but first, Julie Bancroft joins me. She's the Strategic Marketing and Communication Officer with the CrossState Credit Union Association. All right, Julie, what is the Ambassador Program?
So the CrossState Credit Union Ambassador Program, or CU Ambassador Program, is a professional development program for younger generation credit union professionals. And it's really to help them learn about the credit union movement history, philosophy, and also about credit union operations. So it's a professional development program that helps each year's annual ambassador engage in learning opportunities and career building opportunities to hone skills like networking and public speaking.
But they also come up with services for people. I think that's what's really important, is the services that they develop that help you all deliver to people.
Exactly. That's what makes the program so unique. It's based on a contest. So ambassadors present a proposal and a letter of recommendation, go through a series of reviews, and that's how the ambassador is selected. And then they serve as, they get to attend credit union or CrossState Credit Union Association sponsored events throughout the year where they can really be role models to their peers and engage in association level conferences, leadership events, and other opportunities, and they get to share their project with their peers, which is really special.
Yeah. Well, Sarah, what made you get into this area?
I wanted to create a financial lifeline for the special needs community. I have two sons, and they both are intellectually disabled, so for me it was a very personal project.
Okay.
And it kind of seemed like no other credit union kind of came up with something like this, so I just took everything that I did and I gathered all of the resources that I thought would be beneficial for special needs families, and I created one flyer where everything was in one place for them.
Yeah, and you've referred to this as a financial lifeline for the functional needs community.
Yes, yep. When I started in credit union 3 years ago, I had no idea what services would be beneficial for my children.
Yeah.
So I took that and I turned it into something, and it's a huge success in my opinion. Just taking those communities that are constantly growing and giving them something that can help them in the future.
Yeah. And you also came up with a program. I want to talk about some of these services, life insurance, Social Security, disability, and all that in a minute. But you also came up with a way to display this, and you call display orange ribbons around the branch in March to recognize National Disability. So, in other words, you promoted it in a way that folks just walking in the door or getting your general services would recognize, right?
Yes, yes. March is National Disability Awareness Month, so I decorated my branch orange. I did orange ribbons and orange streamers, just anything to kind of bring that attention. And I launched the flyer in March, so it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Now, you also had to work with and make sure that the guardians and the parents of the folks with special needs were aware of the services and could assist. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. So my children are part of a special needs baseball team that meets on Sundays, and on their picnic I handed out flyers. There was over 30 of them that I had with me, and they were all gone. So it was a very important thing to get out there, and I'm continuing in schools and things like that to get the word out even more.
All right, what's next? We're going to run to a break, but then we're going to talk about these specific services. Wait till you hear about them. They are truly significant.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine.
All right, we're talking about financial services to people with special needs, and obviously it involves their guardians, their parents. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yes.
All right, well, you have I'll tell you what, I have a list of the services in front of me that you provided, and they're truly amazing. Let's just go through them. Youth savings accounts.
Yep, there's no minimum age to open a savings account.
You don't have to be 16.
No, which is what I thought when I was starting in banking, but you don't have any minimum age. You can do it for a newborn. And also we have the youth certificates as well that you can do for your children, and they can roll over each year, and you can just continue getting money for them.
Yeah. Also, life insurance. I mean, you would think that would be really difficult to get.
You would think. Life insurance has 3 different types. So there's term life, which provides a death benefit for a set period of time with lower premiums. And whole life insurance is a permanent form of life insurance as well, and it combines a death benefit with a cash value and with fixed payments. And then the universal is a permanent life insurance that's a little bit more complex, but is really beneficial in certain circumstances. Everyone needs life insurance, and especially for if a caregiver passes away and things like that, we need that kind of benefit.
Yeah, something that I never heard of before, representative payee accounts.
A representative payee account is appointed by the Social Security Administration, so they choose a person that will take care of the account. And this is important for people that receive SSI or SSA benefits, and they can only deal with the SSA benefits. But it's for people that can't deal with those benefits by themselves.
Social Security disability.
Social Security.
I'm telling you, it's an amazing list. It truly is, Julie. I mean, when you think about it, it's complex. I mean, it's just not one element of the financial aspects of somebody's life, but it's really comprehensive.
It really is, and that's the difference with credit unions. Credit unions know their communities and can help their communities with these resources.
All right, go ahead.
Social Security disability.
Disability.
Yep. We added the Social Security offices that are around my credit union. There was 3 in my service area. And we put all of those on there along with the phone numbers and the addresses so that everybody could find them if they needed the help.
I don't even know if I understand this, but I think you're making it pretty clear. Is that Pennsylvania ABLE accounts? Is that what it is?
Yes.
What's an ABLE account, first of all?
An ABLE account is Achieving a Better Life Experience. They're relatively new. They came out in 2014. And what they do is they provide a tax-free savings account for a disabled individual. Anyone can add to it, parents, guardians, aunts, uncles, anyone. You can have up to $17,000 in a year that you can add to it, and add up to $100,000 that you can keep in there. And it does not count toward your SSA or SSI disability benefits because there is a $2,000 cap on those, but those do not count.
Well, the last one is Virginia 529 accounts. What's Virginia?
So the PA ABLE is only sold through the state of Pennsylvania. The Virginia 529 accounts are a little bit different as they can be sold not through the state, but through the credit unions.
Through the credit unions, okay.
They have the same kind of disability services, and they also require the same diagnoses and things like that. They're very similar, but you have to have the diagnosis by the age of 26.
Now, how many of these programs are all these programs in effect right now?
So the goal of this program is to create a platform for ambassadors. There's one ambassador selected each year. So Sarah is the 2023 ambassador. And again, the goal is to give her a platform to talk about her project and hopefully have other cross-state credit unions adopt this really unique project that's super beneficial to the community.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems it's very complicated to me. I mean, and all of these programs, which means you have to find someone to implement them. You have to have, don't you have to have the staff to assist people to do this?
You do, but again, that's what credit unions are all about, their members and serving their communities. So this is really why Sarah's project appealed to judges, because it's such a unique project and really does emphasize that people helping people philosophy of the credit union movement.
So overall, how did you personally benefit from this?
I just wanted to get the information out there. My children are my absolute world, and they mean more to me than anything. And I felt I needed to find a way to serve this community that they're in, and this was my best way to do it. I wanted to help those. So
you're driven to this by a deeply rooted family concern. Is that a good one way to put it?
Yep. My children, they struggle a lot with everything that they do, and we don't know that they're ever going to be able to live on their own. So for me, it was I need to make sure that when I'm not here, that they're taken care of.
What's a real challenge? I mean, when you have these types of disabilities and certainly need assistance, not just in the financial world, but in a whole variety of things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think why Sarah's project is so unique is this is an underserved community that really does need to know what resources are available to them. And Sarah's project is designed to create easy access for individuals with intellectual and physical disabilities so they can thrive.
Now, you developed it. Is it the credit union that actually promotes it, you know, and makes sure that, you know, you have to be aware of it? The fact that the program exists is one thing. Making people aware of it is another thing.
Absolutely. So again, we try to create opportunities for the credit union ambassador to be able to share their project at association-sponsored events. So Sarah's had many opportunities throughout the year and will continue to have more to talk about this project so that other credit unions can adopt it.
How long do you remain an ambassador?
1 year.
1 year, and then you move on.
Yep.
But you can't, how can you can't get away from these projects?
Absolutely not. I'll be doing this until I retire, probably after. And I love it. It's something that speaks directly to my heart, and I will do it as long as I can, and I will not stop advocating.
Well, I was certainly not aware of this program, and I don't know, perhaps many of our viewers have been aware of it, but it has a lot of great elements in it. All right, well, look, I want to thank you for coming on. This was a very important element. All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.